morning, folks. You know, today is the first in many years that I am not in church. And it's not by choice, it's just based on everything that's happening around us in this world. But today I want to talk to you about how to remain joyful and faithful and patient. And that is found in Romans chapter 12, verse 12, where it says, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, faithful in prayer. When we assess and analyze our current situation, there is really nothing to smile about. The coronavirus outbreak has weighed on global financial markets and has heavily impacted business and travel. The effect that coronavirus has on airlines and airports and the cruise industry as countries around the world increasingly limit travel has elevated the threat from an epidemic to a global pandemic. Now, a major vulnerability for businesses, especially here in the United States and Europe, is their increasing reliance on China as a supplier and as a customer over the last 10 or 20 years. Now, this recent stock market plunge, which has, by the way, been the steepest since the financial crisis, suggests that investors are bracing for a lot more bad news. Now, a big concern is that the virus will spread quickly in Europe and in the United States, all over the world even, forcing consumers to stay home from work, not to mention avoiding stores, restaurants, and other businesses. Such happenings, which are already happening, by the way, but such happenings, of course, makes a recession seemingly inevitable. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the managing director, has declared this outbreak and the economic disruption caused by the virus as the world's most pressing uncertainty. The effects are being reflected in lower valuations and increased volatility in the financial markets. Now, while the exact effect of the coronavirus on the US economy, or the world's economy for that matter, is unknown or even unknowable, it is clear that it possesses tremendous risk. So, how does the Apostle Paul expects us to rejoice in hope when things look pretty hopeless right now? Well, here's the thing about hope. The thing about hope is never in the present tense. Hope is an investment in the future. In the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 18, Paul said, we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Hope is an investment in eternity. And as you know, hope is an emotion that springs from the heart. It's not from the brain. It's not a wish for things to get better. It's the actual belief, the knowledge that circumstances will get better. You know, sometimes hope looks so bleak in a given situation as to appear even non-existent. Yet hope is so vital for our survival that virtually everyone who survives a life-threatening ordeal that on the surface seems impossible will point to hope as the one thing that got them through. It is this very hope which champions the survivor, even in the bleakest of times. To have hope is to empower yourself in order to face the toughest of times and emerge a survivor. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, it describes faith as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is telling us that faith is the confidence that what we hope for, it will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things that we cannot see. like the future. Now, most persons' hope is limited to this life. At the beginning of this year, which is literally less than 90 days ago, everyone was bragging about their 2020 vision. Yeah, everybody was bragging about their 2020 vision. Apparently, their 2020 vision never saw the coronavirus coming to bring the world as we know it to a halt. I mean, we all had these wonderful visions that 2020 will be our year of breakthrough, never expecting that it would be our year of breakout instead of breakthrough. The problem with our 2020 vision is that it was limited to this life. Paul had previously warned in 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 19 that if it's in this life alone we have hope in Christ, we are of all men most miserable. So, joyful in hope is not joyful in what is happening around us, but joyful in what lies ahead of us. The second thing he tells us to do is to be patient in tribulation. Now, we all have to admit that tribulation is an inevitable reality of life. As a matter of fact, Jesus did say that in this life you will have trouble. Boy, he didn't lie there. But he then told us to be of good courage, for I have overcome the world. You see, as long as we're in this world, we're going to need patience. Patience is the capacity to accept suffering without getting angry. You see, this is the type of patience that we saw in Job. When Job experienced what many across this world is about to experience, loss of money, loss of property, loss of livelihood, and even loss of his family, his wife said to him, curse God and die. But Job insisted, I won't do that. Instead, he wept, he prayed, he struggled, and he endured. And in the end, he came to know God in a way that he had never known him before. In Job chapter 42 and verse 5, Job said, I heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes sees you. Folks, if we remain patient through the tribulation of this coronavirus ordeal, I guarantee you that we will see God in a better way than we have seen him before. But until then, let us remain faithful in prayer. I mean, think about the last several decades of world history. 14 years into the 20th century, we had the First World War. And people said it would be the war to end all wars. But it was only a matter of 20 years before the Second World War. After that came the Cold War for 50 years. But then we ended the 20th century with the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. And less than 20 years later, we were immersed in a whole new kind of war, the war on terror. And now, in 2020, a war has been declared on a flu-like symptom that seems to let all the previous wars look like a video game. So people are asking, when are we going to see the kind of world that we hope for? Well, the answer is, you're not going to see it in this world. All visions of utopia are doomed to failure in this world. It is in the nature of the human spirit to think we can redeem the world, but a brief look at world history shows us that we never have and we never will. We're living in serious times, folks, and it's time for some serious prayers. It's not time for panic, it's time for prayer. Philippians 4:6 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication. With thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. Let us not give up hope. Let us rejoice in hope. Let us be patient in tribulation, and let us be faithful in prayer. This is how we will overcome this time. God bless you.